It's gotten to the point where we can say with a straight face we're more or less a one-stop shop. So the way I like to put it is sometimes your money doesn't matter until it's the only thing that matters. And for some people in those pivotal moments, they've got to go all across town to get their questions answered because they have the tax guy over here, the investment guy over here, your attorney gal over here. And it makes it so that you have to coordinate and ask questions with all these different people.
While you're going through some tremendous life-changing events.
And for sure, like navigating the loss of a spouse or a parent, it's cumbersome. It can be nightmarish. There's all this paperwork and forms that you got to fill out. But people need help at like stops along a journey. We've always looked at this from the client perspective. Like when you come and say, I've got this financial problem. In the past, we used to say, oh, well, we do some of that. But for the rest of the things that we don't handle, here's a business card. Here's some other people throughout town. So I didn't want to build a business that was like part of that same problem. Welcome to Saturday State of Mind. I am Mike Panico. I'm joined, as always, by my business partner, my partner in crime, Jessica Panico.
Hi, Mike.
Welcome to the first show here that we've got.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be one of those things where we look back and be like, oh my God, look how like old everything looked in like 2025.
I think it already looks old.
We look old.
Yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, for a long time.
I was actually reminded before this even got started, we had a radio show for a spell. We actually tried to like a couple things with TV. This is a little bit different. There's like a huge video element to this. And also, I've been a little bit nervous about like, there's like a permanence to it. It's going to be out there.
Because once you put it on the internet, it's there forever.
It's there forever.
It's a good reminder to the kids at home. You know, I don't know how many of the kids are watching this, but you put something on the internet.
You got to say all the right things, mind our P's and Q's, right? And we also got to put on a good show for the people here. I think where we wanted to start with our first episode, so to speak, is talk a little bit about the Arcadia origin story.
Oh, a love story.
How we even got here. Is it a love story?
Sometimes.
You know, I think a lot, you know how sometimes people will say, you know, like when you get married, you build a life together.
Sure.
I don't know if people have have built a life the same way that you and I have, because we're literally always around each other.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I think probably one of the most commonly asked questions I get is, how do you work with your spouse? And I say, well, I have a separate office. We don't see each other all day long. Yeah. And that is helpful. But I think it's also kind of amazing where I'm like, hey, did I tell you about this thing that happened 2 weeks ago? Whether it's work or family, whatever. And you're like, no. It's like, oh yeah, no, I actually haven't had a chance to talk to Mike about that. People say, how? You spend all of the time together.
Wow.
It's like, well, not really. Because yes, we do, run this business here together. And we've been working together for over a decade now, but we don't see each other all day long.
Well, I think we're going to have to get more into the dynamic and how it all works. But let's start like at the beginning. And you're the better historian, because I think a lot of people know my memory isn't always the greatest. So if people were to say, how did Arcadia get started? How would you begin to answer that question, Jess?
It was a cold and dark evening. No, I like to, and I do actually say the story quite a lot because I do a lot of interviewing around here, and it's kind of, our origin. So I say, Mike's been a financial advisor ever since 2003 when he graduated from Babson College. He started off in the corporate space and quickly came to believe that wasn't for him. So he was looking for his passion and his calling in life, and knowing that he wanted to help people financially plan for their future. He worked for a semi-independent organization for about 5 years and said, geez, I think I want to make a go at this. And he quit his job and moved into the basement.
It's a very clean and tidy version of it.
Thank you. It's very concise, and I've said it a lot because our team's pretty big. Yeah. And so we've done some interviewing over the years. And I like to reflect on how you went to the basement, and I don't really know what you were doing down there for a while, but you convinced me, because I was pregnant with our first child, our first son, and you convinced me to quit my job as well and move in the basement so I could care for children part-time and help you part-time actually build this thing.
Yeah.
And what I like really about this story is here we are, we're in our late 20s. We're both, a few years removed from school, but we quit both of our jobs, so we have no income. We have a new house, a new mortgage, and a brand new baby, and we were making $0 a year. And knowing, what I know now, or just being someone in her very early 40s, I don't think I would make that same decision today. And I'm so glad that that opportunity happened in our 20s, because I don't know if we were just like too dumb or just more fearless back then.
You saying you couldn't begin this journey in your 40s?
No.
Or knowing what you know now, you wouldn't have done it in your 20s?
Oh, no, I definitely would have done it in my 20s,
Okay.
but like being able to take that huge amount of risk.
Yeah.
I mean, no income, mortgage, baby, not really exactly knowing what we're doing. I mean, you knew the finance stuff, but like, how do you get clients? Like, how do we create an impact in a business of significance? And it was really a huge leap of faith.
Yeah.
And one that I think paid off.
It was kind of an accident too. I mean, it wasn't like we sat down and had a big meeting about like, let's start a business together. That's not at all how this started.
Oh, no, I went very begrudgingly. People always say, what's one word to summarize your experience with Arcadia in the beginning? And I say begrudgingly.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the short version of things is I had been in financial services for at least about 10-ish years, right? But with a number of different firms, a different amount of partnerships that just weren't working out. So I went off on my own, and I was kind of a road warrior. I'd go to people's homes. I go to people's businesses. We were doing a lot of like group health insurance. Like this isn't like, 08, 09, that sort of deal. And, that was a big deal after like Romney Care. People were looking for cheaper group health. I go to people's homes and help them buy like life insurance, but there wasn't like a business there. I just went around and helped people with transactions.
Yeah, it was kind of like just selling stuff. You'd call me half the time being like, hey, yeah, I know it's like, 5:30. I just showed up at so-and-so's house, but they're not home. Like, so I'm going to like drive back.
Yeah.
You can like get dinner started already. Was it called like getting porched?
Oh yeah, I get wild. I mean,
it?
there were times I'd go to people's houses and like the lights would turn off and the blinds would get like shut really quickly because
You're like, but you set the appointment.
they set the appointment. They just didn't want to host it. Or I remember very specifically there was one set of clients I'd go to their home and their cats would be like crawling all over me the entire meeting. I had to choke down like a lot of like, ham sandwiches that didn't have like enough mustard or mayonnaise on them to be.
Well, that's nice that those people fed you at least.
They were being good hosts, but it wasn't always the best fare. But you had to do what you had to do to strike a chord with people, make a relationship. And I mean, you were saying it. I mean, we're in our 20s. You had to make a buck, so whatever worked.
For sure. And so I think and two, when I went down to the basement, which was a finished basement, in all fairness, I did say, "Listen."
I don't know if it was heated though. Did it have heat?
No.
No.
But we had a space heater. Let's
Yeah.
go. So I did say, listen, I'm going to do this with you for maybe a year, get you like solidified, help with the business a little bit. Maybe you'll get some office space and hire some
Well, 'cause
staff.
I think the issue I was having is I was doing pretty well, like going out and advising people.
Sure.
But it was all the in-between stuff. Like there were phone calls, there were transactions, appointments needed setting up. Like there was like just all the glue parts.
It's no different, honestly, than like a tradesman. Like plumbers, electricians are excellent at what they do, not really scheduling appointments and calling people and following up. So you were looking for some administrative support, really, on just helping you be a one-man band. So even then, I don't really think we had the vision of what Arcadia has certainly become. And I knew that because my background was in healthcare, that I wanted to get back into healthcare. I was probably going to go into like nursing or something like that.
It was going to be a temporary stint. You just helping me out.
Yes.
I mean, what I've always told people is that you realize how like helpless and clueless I was at running a business.
I always say you're the smartest dumb person I've ever met, because Mike, you are very smart. And then some of the very simplistic tasks just really escape.
I like to do what I like to do, and everything else like just fades to gray.
Right. And, somewhere in the basement, we really came across the idea of doing seminar marketing to help individuals with retirement planning.
Right.
And that kind of became a niche that we started focusing on. And I think you felt very passionate about it. And I did too, at the time, even though I knew this was going to be temporary, to help these baby boomers. There was something like 10,000 baby boomers retiring each day. And the number one concern was not knowing if they were going to outlive their money or where their next check was coming from. And I think it really spoke to, something that you've experienced, that you've seen firsthand, that you're passionate about. So we said, forget all the ticky-tack term insurance, group life, and stuff like that, and let's focus on
Well, we want to know
helping.
how to build this business. I mean, we knew people throughout town that actually had bona fide financial advisory practices with like lots of clients and lots of personnel. And it's like, well, how do you get there? And, I think people might take a little bit for granted like now, but back in like the late 2008 through 2012 stretch, the internet was still like relatively new.
Yeah.
Like, like getting access to good information was still like kind of difficult. So I believe we started talking to wholesalers. Like, we would point out people throughout town. Like, what is that guy doing? He's got a big office, right? Like all the cars out front, like look like they're nice cars. So they must like know what they're doing. How are they building because like prior to having this kind of a conversation, the way that I would get new clients is either literally knocking on doors or making cold calls, like on Saturday mornings, like just brutal, like banging your head against the wall type stuff.
Sure.
And the common thread was that a lot of them are doing event marketing,
Right.
So
dinner, seminars, educational,
go to a library, offer to educate people. Sometimes you'd have to entice them with the meal. I think part of like earlier when you said like the risks that we had to take, those events are not cheap. And, just for a pair of kids with a new kid on the way, like having to scrounge up several $1,000s to go rent out a space or serve everybody a steak.
Right.
In fact, the very first event that we ran, I think one person came to it. Do you remember?
Yeah. So the very first event we ran was educational. It was in Lowell, Mass.
Songus Arena?
UMass. Lowell, Songus Arena, like you could sell.
Yeah, as if.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
No, it was some classroom at UMass Lowell, and I think we had maybe 5 people show up.
You sure?
Yeah,
but maybe one person expressed interest.
Oh no, one, no, she wasn't interested. She had something to say, but I remember. I don't think it was you. I think there was another presenter there too at the time because they wanted us to like work with somebody. And he wrote on the whiteboard with a Sharpie.
Okay.
So we did not get our security deposit back.
Okay.
There was one lady that came up in particular wanting to talk, but was telling us all about how she had sued her previous financial advisor. And we did not set any appointments. And we sunk like I think $4 or $5 grand into that, which for somebody with no income was a lot of money.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of money now, but really to have nothing there. So it wasn't a great start. But we didn't give up. We persevered, right? And later that same year, so that was like May and August, we did another seminar. You were the presenter this time. You're like, I know what I'm doing here. And that was a dinner seminar. So just talking about retirement in general, meal was provided. And we did set some appointments. And we had one after that, and that worked well. And all of a sudden we needed office space. We had to get out of the basement because we were doing a lot of those like Regis rentals.
Yeah, I don't think I appreciated it then, but it makes sense now in hindsight that worked. It still works now because people like they go through a lot of changes in life, right? Mm-hmm. You go from elementary school to high school, you get married, you go to college, you have a kid, you get your first house. There's always these changes. And then there's like kind of like maybe 1, 2, or 3 decades, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, where really not a lot of like new stuff happens, but then retirement happens. And it's like one of the scariest changes you can go through, right? You've been like working forever and I'm not going to work anymore. And like, now what do I do with the rest of my life? And how do I make sure that I never run out of money? And so again, like pre-internet, like where did you go to get those questions answered? I mean, you would just have to play like roulette and go to any given like financial planning office or try to do it on your own by going to the library. So,
or listen to Mad Money.
Yeah. I mean, like there, so yeah.
Susie Orman,
certainly cable shows, there's still radio shows, but people did try to find like for themselves, what resources am I going to use or what professionals can I go to trust, and working through or going to a seminar just to like hear out what people are talking about, like maybe vet out that potential speaker as a solution. It makes sense that that's how people would go about trying to solve this particular problem. And like I said, it still works today.
Sure.
The internet's certainly changing a lot of things, but fundamentally, there isn't a lot of conversation in this country about how to handle that transition and how to handle it well. Right. So we started having success with seminars despite like falling out the gates a little bit, just with some stick-to-itiveness, and tenacity. We were over like just a series of months starting to get more leads and potential clients and then turning into new clients than like just any two people could handle.
Yeah. So, I mean, that dinner seminar was in August of 2014. And by that December, we had to get an actual office.
Yeah.
And I remember you had some clients coming in to move over like a large sum of money. And we didn't even have the sign hanged up on the wall yet. And you were like, can you prop it up somewhere? They're going to think we're a fly-by-night like operation. And luckily they came in and they believed, and they're still clients with us today, which is pretty amazing. But it was definitely humble beginnings, and then 2015, we hired our first employee. She's, our longest team member here on our team. She's still, with us today, which is pretty awesome. And then we eventually moved out of our first office location. We outgrew that space in Salem, New Hampshire. We moved.
Can we do like a special shout out for all those clients that did join us in the early years, like when we were like using surplus furniture and just like keeping everything together with like duct tape,
Yeah.
Maybe to explain some of that, because outside of insanity, it'd be like, why would you work with like young people who like barely have a shingle hanging on the wall? In fact, just before we started recording, I saw one of our eldest clients by amount of time that they've been working with us. And she said something to the effect of like, I hope you haven't changed, Michael. And I said, what are you talking about? Have it changed? She's like, well, you've gotten older. I've gotten older. But I realized that part of the reason me and my husband started working with you in the first place, and her husband is deceased now, is that we just felt this connection. We felt like we could trust you. And I think that's because our process, even going back to day one, was always based in education and really with the spirit of like truly trying to help people. Right. Because this transition that we just described, it's really, really scary. Right. And there's all these options. Half the options don't even make sense to the average layperson, right? So I do think we were able to grow as rapidly as we did it. Because, I mean, listen, we're tooting our own horn here a little bit, but I'd like to think that we always had our heart in the right place with it.
Well, I mean, I think what's, different about this, because like you said, where do you go like for help? If you're in a city, you look at the biggest skyscraper and the name on the side of that building. Okay, I'm going to walk in there, and they're going to sell you like a real nifty life insurance policy, or, you're going down to the bank and they're going to show you some really cool mutual funds, put you in, or maybe a CD over here, whatever it is. People are just either selling you stuff. It's all stuff. It's all transactional. And we, since day one, have always been about the relationship. She says, I hope you haven't changed. And I mean, it's not an accusation. It's, I've known you so long and I know who you are. And I know you know me intimately, my family. And to think like, now that her husband has passed away, like she was never the decision maker. She wasn't the one driving the bus there. She wasn't the one that was as maybe savvy and tuned in as he was, but they both trusted you, Arcadia, like, implicitly, and we had that relationship. So they knew, sadly, if he was no longer here, she would be well taken care of. And I think that that's always what's set us apart, is having that relationship with our clients.
I hope so. Like, I feel that pressure all the time, right? Because people will look you square in the eyes, be like, I just gave you my life savings, and I'm trusting you to do the right thing by me, right? And it's like,
I love it too. They hand over the check and it's like, here's my money. It's like, you're not giving it to me. It's still your money. I'm putting it in this account for you, But it's money, man. Like things get, weird. People get scared, and like you understand that too. But shout out to like Roxanne, like our most tenured employee here that's been with us for just about a decade, and then to all those clients that really took a chance on us and that are still around too. So 2015, we hired Roxanne, and then, the business really started booming with a lot of this event marketing that we were doing.
Yep.
And what's kind of funny is I think we looked around the table, a few years like into the business, maybe it was like 2016, like saying, do we have like a company here? Like, do we need a mission statement? Do we need core values? Like, do I need something like to hang on the wall? Like, no one like really told us in the beginning, like, this is how you build a business. Like, first you pick out like paint swatches, and then like, you know how to financially plan. Like, you understand like how to like.
The business was directionless. So we would do events about, retirement, and there's all these options. You've got mutual funds, you get stocks, you get bonds, you get annuities, you get all this stuff. And people would come in and be like, well, they treat it like a buffet. Like, I already got some mutual funds over here. I want to leave them alone. And I'd rather do some get a long-term care policy with you and be like, oh, okay, so yeah, we'll do that.
I don't like this one account. This account stinks. You manage this one account and let me.
It was very transactional. And so it made it that over time, we didn't really stand for anything or have one uniform process. And that was becoming our chief dilemma at that stage of our development. So we decided we have to kind of focus, who are we and what are we going to do going forward here?
Sure. So I think, we came up with, a mission statement, core values, things that we are. This is actually it right here.
Well, this comes later, but
I'm so glad that visual, a mission statement. Yeah, that actually has changed. Our core values have always remained the same, but we did a little bit more of, I think, getting better aligned with what our messaging was and who we are, putting that out to the public. But, we created some of that stuff, and 2017, we really became very process oriented, making sure people were in a good, holistic, comprehensive, full retirement plan.
We're going to help you with the whole picture.
Right.
We made that decision around 2017.
17, yeah.
Yeah. So no more transactional type stuff. Because that does work, and it works for a lot of other firms and certainly certain types of clients. But it really makes it difficult to build up processes around just one-offs or transactional type stuff. Nor was it really, I think, the business that we were interested in running.
Right.
Being transactional, you already made mention that for us, what we always enjoyed most was the relationship that we could have or that we could build with clients.
Right. And I should mention that if not at this point, a little bit before it, I did decide not to flee the company. But this was somewhere that
bears some mentioning, sure.
I could actually see, because the thing with healthcare, besides being kind of a science nerd, is I could see the direct impact we had on people. It's their health. That's the most important thing to them. And it was just about, I think for me, finding that area of impact, creating significance, leaving this world a little bit better than what I found it. Yeah. So I had a big calling for that. But when we really started becoming less oh, you need dental insurance, here you go, Ned Ryerson selling you policy. When I really I think we transitioned.
Shout out Ned Ryerson.
Shout out Groundhog Day. Great movie.
Right.
But when we really we're focusing on helping the mom and pop next door, they work so hard for their entire life and save this money.
Dude, healthcare is brutal. I'd like to think at least
you saved me.
I did you a favor.
Yeah, please. Okay, whatever. I was glad I wasn't enduring
healthcare these days is super bureaucratic. Well, it's highly transactional, right? People are frustrated. They're ready to fight with whatever doctor or nurse they're seeing on a given day just because of the wait times or
a lot of bureaucracy and everything you have to deal with.
I do think it warrants mentioning. When you evolve from being transactional to planning based, the reason that it helps you dig into the relationship is you can't even put pen to paper and start a plan unless you understand who a person is, what motivates them, what keeps them up at night, what are they trying to do or accomplish. So, if someone walks into your office and says, hey, I need life insurance, that's a transaction. I don't even really need to know a lot other than your age and if you're a smoker or not. Yeah, that's about it. I can write that policy. But when you say I need a plan, how many more years do I have to work? How much money do I have to put aside every single paycheck? That requires a whole different level of intimacy. You actually have to work with people on a personal level. And that's what's always gotten me out of bed is not just the industry or paying attention to what the market's doing. It's just knowing that I'm going to be able to help people approach this transition with some confidence. And then once they get beyond it, retirement, it's like being on a permanent vacation, right? So if you've planned for it the right way and you have the right mindset, it's an incredible period of your life. And knowing that we support people through that journey, we escort them to it in the first place. It's literally awesome.
Yeah. I like to say we see you to and through retirement. It's not oh, you're retired now. Great. Here's a plan. See you later. It's no, we're going to be here every step of the journey too. And, I did my undergrad in psychology, and what's so cool is that, we talk to people more about life than we do money.
Right.
And believe me, we talk to people about money too. We are still doing financial plans here, but it's more are you afraid to spend the money? Are you acting erratically? You're spending too much. What motivates you? So I feel that people are oh, are you sad you didn't get to use your degree? It's I do use it, but in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we were trained coming up in the planning industry to take people through Morningstar reports. You'd explain to them the Greeks on their portfolios. Those are statistical measurements, alpha, beta, or standard deviation.
The delta. What's the delta?
To understand how much return to expect or what kind of risk that you were taking. And you would see people's eyes glaze over. And so they would effectively just be making a decision. I don't know what this guy's talking about, but he seems to know what he's talking about. So I guess I have to trust him, and like just made for a very tentative, like type of bond.
Right.
And so instead we say, like, listen, man, you understand that with money, there's no free lunch. You can keep it all in a tin can and it's not going to earn any interest. If you want to earn some interest, we might have to take some risks. So you're going to see some fluctuations. At a very basic level, people understand kind of the gist.
Sure.
So instead, over the years, we started leaning into, well, what are the things that people do understand? And there's like in life payoffs and there's sacrifices, right? So if you want a certain payoff, you might have to make a certain sacrifice to get there, like save a little bit more, work a little bit harder, whatever that is. And those kind of conversations that happen at a very human level, I think allow for relationships to like get created more easily, and then of course maintain more easily too.
Yeah. I mean, this, is kind of like fast forward to how we do planning now, but we start with the end in mind. It's like, what do you want your retirement to look like? And then we just backwards out the math. That's really what it is. But you got to know what you're retiring to. Like, are you traveling the world? Are you like happy, like, tending to your garden? Like, what are your like financial demands? But you got to know what's important in life and where you want to spend your time, your energy, your focus. And then we make the plan happen from there. So I think we got up to 2017. We went to like,
I think we could fast forward.
Yeah.
And we can get into like the COVID years.
Sure.
Right. Because that created quite a left turn. And it could, I think for a lot of businesses in this country, it was the end of the line, right? Because for us, we weren't going to be able to do events. You couldn't go, we used to go to restaurants. Like no one could go to restaurants. If you did go to a restaurant, everyone had to be 6 feet apart. We're used to putting crowds together, right? I like to do public speaking. You can't do that with a scuba mask on. So we were basically shut down for the better part of a year.
Sure. And
we were like, how are we going to bring in new clients and keep growing? Like, how is this going to work? I mean, everyone was scrambling at the same time to figure this out.
Right.
And I think we were fortunate in that, having put in the work for a number of years leading up to the pandemic, we had this list of people who had seen us over the years at a seminar, but had never come in to see us or had a consult, or they didn't take action. So me and a couple of the other advisors started just reaching out to people, and people were at home. They were scared. They were bored.
Mostly bored. I'll talk to you. What else?
Yeah, they were so people for once were picking up the phone and willing to take effectively a cold call. And we had one of our best years in the middle of the pandemic, just reaching out to people who still needed and wanted assistance. I mean, we talk about anxiety a lot. People were at peak anxiety during that pandemic. What if the market crashes? What if it never recovers? Are we in this new terrible paradigm where the world's just going to be shut down?
And a lot of people left their jobs in COVID. Either they were forced out, for whatever industry they were in, or they were like, you know what, I'm hanging up my scrubs. I'm not going back to the way this is. It's no longer like healthcare, it's sick care, and they made a change and needed help and guidance during that. So I think that was pivotal. And then I think really the next, most pivotal thing in our business came around 2022, where we formed Arcadia Tax, the tax practice, because we always say that, there's 5 key areas in retirement planning. One of those areas is tax, and it's tax planning, which is for going ahead. But you got to coordinate that with tax preparation, which looks backwards, right? And so we worked with a number of very skilled, account professionals, but we said, this is a service that we could offer to our clients here, so it's coordinated all under one roof.
Yeah, a lot of firms will talk about how they do comprehensive planning. And it's kind of a word that doesn't have any meaning, because what does comprehensive mean? For a lot of firms, it's like, well, we do investments and insurance, or we have somebody down the hall that
we have stocks and bonds.
We have a relationship who maybe will do your tax return. Right. But in order to have a complete financial plan, if you want to say with a straight face, I am prepared for the next 30 years of my life, I know I have a good solid plan for myself. Certainly, you have to know what your investments are doing. But you need an income strategy, you need a tax strategy, you need a healthcare strategy, you need a legal strategy. And for many Americans, each of those different pit stops involves a different professional. So you have one person managing your money, another person helping you with insurance, somebody preparing your taxes, somebody doing the wills and the trusts, right? And it's like, well, how many of these people actually talk to each other on your behalf?
Sure.
For most people, the answer is they never talk about me.
No.
There's no cohesion, there's no coordination. And if that sounds frustrating to just ordinary people, it's no better for professionals, because Like, say we wanted to help a client sell an investment so they could come up with some money to buy their dream home. Okay, great. Easy enough. We know, though, that there's going to be a tax consequence.
Sure.
So, hey, why don't we call your accountant and see if they have a better idea of going about this, or we have to stay away from a particular threshold so you don't get whacked next April. Out of every 10 phone calls to your accountant, we would maybe hear back 3, 4, 5 times. If we did hear back, it wasn't always like a professional conversation. Sometimes the accountant would be like, under threat. Are you trying to replace me? Are you double guessing my work?
Sure.
And it would be worse with the attorneys. I mean, attorneys very rarely contact people back. They don't seem to like work well with others. I mean, like, listen, there's some great attorneys out there. We know this, but we made a decision somewhere in that pandemic that if we were going to really help people, like full spectrum, we couldn't depend on other ancillary professionals to fill those gaps for our clients because we couldn't control those relationships. There was too many. There was too many accountants. There was too many attorneys, right? There was too many options. There was too many mediums. Like some people only took phone calls. Others only worked by email, right? So we needed to simplify things. And so it was 2022 when we decided, and this was a crazy decision because running a tax practice, you could think at one level must be like running a financial planning practice.
Sure.
But they're not like alike at all. No. Certainly not like from the stretch between like February and April, right?
Plus, I think we hired a whole bunch of accountants and like no admin staff, or we had like one part-time person. So it was, a little rocky that year because we had a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but no one running the food out, know. But we staffed up, luckily we have some, really great leadership here. And then really to round everything out came in 2023 where we partnered with an estate planning attorney. So she is, for legal reasons, her own separate law firm, but she exclusively works with Arcadia clients. And we always had a relationship with estate planning attorneys, right? But she's truly for like our clientele here. It's gotten to the point where we can say with a straight face we're more or less a one-stop shop. Yes. If you want to come here, get your financial plan done, but also get your taxes done. I mean, it makes it so that in pivotal moments, and thankfully they don't happen often, right? It's usually like when you've lost your job or there's a death in the family, right? Or you're being forced to move across the country. So the way I like to put it is sometimes your money doesn't matter until it's the only thing that matters. Mm-hmm. And for some people in those pivotal moments, they've got to go all across town to get their questions answered because they have the tax guy over here, the investment guy over here, your attorney gal over here. And it makes it so that you have to coordinate and ask questions of all these different people. Right. And while you're going through some tremendous life-changing like event. And for sure, like sometimes I think that the big marquee one of those is death. Like navigating the loss of a spouse or a parent. It's cumbersome. It can be nightmarish. There's all this paperwork and forms that you got to fill out. You got to grab these certificates. It's a tremendous lift, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, what does it mean to help people? Am I helping somebody if I sell them a long-term care policy? Sure, especially if they end up using it down the road, mm-hmm. right? But people need help at like stops along a journey. Right? Because things change year to year. The markets, they go up or down, right? Your job is good years. Sometimes you get a bonus. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's a death in the family. There's an inheritance to deal with, right? There's all these different things that happen. And what I must think is really lousy is that if you go to talk to your person, your finance guy, like, hey, I'm going through this. You helped me with the last thing. Can you help me with this new thing? Right. It's like roulette. Like sometimes it can help you and sometimes they can't. And like I said before, this isn't just like attacking the industry. There's reasons that there's specialists and, there's a room for everybody, I guess. But we've always looked at this from the client perspective. Right. Like when you come and say, I've got this financial problem. In the past, we used to say, oh, well, we do some of that. But for the rest of the things that we don't handle, here's a business card. Here's some other people throughout town. And nobody I don't like that. I wouldn't want to have to plan my finances that way. Exactly. So I didn't want to build a business that was like part of that same problem. Yeah. So I'm really, happy to say that our clients now can come in here and literally sit down with their, financial planner, their accountant, the estate planning attorney. Team. They can, sit down around the table and they're talking about everything and they're, in agreement with like putting that person first. It's like the family office for, the person next door. Right. So I think that brings us to current day. We're just, killing it, right? We're killing it. Yeah. You think so? Well, I'm happy I'm still here. So let's have a word on that for a second. So how is it working together with your spouse? Sometimes it's fine.
Yeah. Is this the honest take or is this?
Oh yeah, no. Sometimes it's fine. Like right now, it's fine.
Just right now.
Is it? Yeah, right now. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. So right now, yeah, it's fine. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I don't give anything a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I just want to put that out there.
When is that at its most challenging? Sometimes
I'm like, would I rather sell the business or get a divorce? Like, I don't know, which has less paperwork to it.
Okay.
But no, it's just, what I think happens is that you just got to be really clear on like, I do this, you do that, because we're both pretty strongly opinionated individuals,
sure.
right? But we're both very impassioned about what we're doing here.
Yeah, when we butt heads, skulls fracture.
Yeah, for sure. Because nobody
likes to give ground in this relationship.
God, I do remember when we first married too. Like, you said a bully sometimes. You like took like an Italian ice from me one time, and you were like, "You have to say like I'm the most handsome ever, and I'll give it back to you." I was like, "I'd rather starve than fold," and it's just like dumb butting head things like that. Earlier in the day, those things don't matter so much anymore.
Did you ever get that Italian ice back?
I probably ignored you, and then you got distracted by something else.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sounds delicious.
Oh God, yeah. Just like getting it in there, being like, I'm gonna start eating it now. Yeah, probably something like that. But
I would say the hardest part is there's not a lot of separation between work and our personal lives, right?
Yeah, that's a challenge sometimes. I do think that we're both very lucky, right? Our business blesses our lives, like for sure. We've grown this together. We're on the same page. Like, people tell us like often that we're like the same person. And, sometimes I think that is why like we can butt heads from time to time. But, I really, running this business, has been great. Our marriage also great. But no doubt there's, sometimes there's bumps. Like it happens. It's life, man. Right?
Like, I think for a lot of husbands and wives, you come home and, whoever's making dinner, you say to the other person, right? You sit down to eat. How was your day? Right? So for us, how was your day was like what the other person experienced, just like in a different wing of the building. And so you're hearing about the same people and the same problems just from maybe a different angle.
Or it's like, I want to solve it. They say with like, if someone comes to you with a problem, they either want to be heard, helped, or hugged, right? So that happens a lot. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to be heard. Like, it was so crazy. I had like back-to-back meetings today, and, I forgot to book the conference room. So I had to have like the meeting like in this other room that I don't like as much, something like that. It's like, well, why didn't you book the conference room? I shouldn't. This other person. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Like,
because I can still work. Like I can.
Right. Or you're like, what we should do in the future? Like, write this down. Like, we should do this going forward. I'm like, I'm not working still. I'm like decompressing. It's after work.
There's not a lot of decompression.
No. I will say, I don't think we ever bring home stuff into work. Like, it never flows that way. It's always bringing work stuff into home.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't do enough at home. Maybe that's why it doesn't flow.
Maybe there's more work than home life.
Maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe that's something to consider. But I think working with each other, well, it's not perfect. I'd rather not be doing anything else, healthcare or otherwise. Fortunately,
now we're getting a lot of support. I mean, we'll talk in the future, I think, about what Arcadia is working on now, 2025 and beyond. But we have an enormous team of support. Like, we mentioned Roxanne, right? She was our first employee back in 2015.
Yep.
Right. And so now today we're somewhere in the mid 30s, incredible team. And a lot of them are doing the heavy lifting now and working towards the vision and whatnot. And so hopefully that helps with this, like the work-life balance.
Yeah. I think one thing we probably could have hit on like in the beginning of this too, is really why we decided to do this, this YouTube show and podcast, and I think it really was to first of all, like, we'll spend some time talking to one another about, just things are important to educate people on, like in our industry, but we want to spend a lot of time talking to our clients too, like real life people. Are you excited about those shows?
Yeah, because I think the conversation gets to evolve. Like where this whole thing started is that I said people don't really have like a medium, or they didn't going back, say like 10 or 15 years. Like, where do you go to talk about your retirement questions or concerns? You would like be like, gosh, I have so few options. I guess I'll go driving to a library at 7:30 at night to listen to a stranger from an ad I saw in the newspaper, right? But now you got all these options. You can go to Reddit. You can watch videos on YouTube. That's where the conversations are now happening. And the conversations can be as technical or as wide ranging as you'd like. I've noticed a lot of the content from the financial industry is in the tactics. Like, when do you use a Roth? What's better, a revocable or an irrevocable trust? And those are great questions, but it gets right into the tactical. It's kind of transactional. And it's something that we've shied away from a little bit because we take more of a life-centered approach.
Sure.
The mission statement, we're here to help people live every day like it's Saturday. Now, of course, tactics are the foundation of supporting it. But we think that the industry sometimes totally ignores, right, the conversation that has to start where you have to start, which is, what are we trying to do here, right? What motivates you? What keeps you up at night? What is this all for?
Mm-hmm.
If we were to look backwards on your dying day, what sort of things would we have to have done or accomplished, whether it's with your money or your family or certain bucket list things? Like, what is success when it comes to life?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I want this conversation to be. And we're going to have this conversation just with each other, other members of the team. I can't wait to have this conversation with clients, because I think that's a conversation that people have only been having like at small, intimate settings, a glass of wine with their spouse, or maybe over the holidays, probably an argument with family members. But like in this setting, online, we can have a conversation that's really wide ranging about all these topics that for, decades have been ignored. So I'm super excited to have this conversation.
Yeah. Well, Mike, it's my pleasure. I can't believe it's our first show and it's done now, but next time?
First Saturday, State of Mind in the books. Hopefully many more.
Okay. See you soon.
See you next time.